And Bruna is off.
Women's Day special. Bruna?
Hello, hello. Now I can hear you.
Everybody can hear me?
Yeah?
Yeah, now yes.
Okay, so we are going to start our chat now. I'm not going to introduce anyone. You're going to guests of tonight. So please, who wants to start? Andrea, please, can you start introducing yourself?
Of course. Hi, first of all, thank you, Brot, for inviting me to participate in this amazing initiative that you decided to have today. My name is Andreia, and I work at the Cultura Inglesa São Paulo. I'm an academic coordinator there. I am mainly responsible for course design and selection and pre-service of new teachers. And I am very, very happy to be here today. I also have a message on behalf of Laura Magalhães Zonta, who couldn't make it today. She's a teacher at Cultura, and she was going to be here to represent transgender women in ELT. And unfortunately, she couldn't make it. So she just wanted to say that she's sorry for not being able to be here today and say hi. I'm saying hi on her behalf.
Good. Thank you so much. Bruna, can you go next?
Sure. So, hello, I'm Bruna. I'm the co-founder and academic director at Caltabiano Idiomas, a school here in São Paulo. I've been a teacher for over 18 years. And then we'll get to talk more during the talk. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here with these wonderful women celebrating our day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bruna. Cintia?
Okay, well, I'm Cintia Rodrigues, and what am I doing? What do I do? Well, I'm a pedagogical coordinator at two branches for 7 idiomas. And I'm also very happy for the invitation. Actually, it's really, I'm kind of lost, after a whole day of work. I'm like, you get into the mood and everything. But thank you very much for the invite. And I think we'll be talking, and then I'll tell more things about me.
And there's one guest missing, unfortunately, Laura Magalhães, who works for Cultura Inglesa in São Paulo as well. We heard about her talk in the colloquium, the Cultura Inglesa colloquium, and she won't be here tonight with us, but she left us a message that she wants us to give about how trans women may believe that they do not fit in the market, but they should try anyway. They try their best and believe that you are capable of being part of the LT market, because she thought she couldn't be, and now she's in Cultura Inglesa. So she wanted to leave this message to everyone, and it's very unfortunate that she's not here with us for this talk tonight. Okay, I will start with a question to Bruna. Okay. How was the process of choosing a career in ELT? How did you choose to be, like, how was the process of choosing a teaching career, or how was it for you?
Okay. I wanted to be a teacher since I was 7, believe it or not. When I grew up and I became a teenager, many people know this story because I like to tell it. So when I was 7, my dream was to be an English teacher. But then when I went to high school, I didn't want to be a teacher anymore because teachers don't get paid very well and everything, So I decided to study psychology. But when I was taking my psychology degree, I started teaching because I was invited. And then I couldn't stop anymore. So I quit psychology to become a full-time teacher.
Wow. And I think everybody starts thinking of being a teacher when we are kids, right? Because it was kind of the same with me. What about you, Andrea?
It is basically the same. I've always wanted to be a teacher. I fell in love with the English language when I was a teenager. I used to participate in the drama groups from Cultura Inglesa in Santos. And my passion for the English language started there. And from then on, I just decided that I wanted to teach English. I studied languages and literature. I started teaching, I think as most teachers do, without a lot of preparation, even before I joined college. So I started being a teacher in practice. And then later on, I specialized. I studied languages. I did the CELTA and all the other teaching awards, but I started experimenting with the profession, I think, as most teachers do here in Brazil. But I've always wanted to be a teacher, always.
Yeah. Cintia, what about you?
Yeah, that's basically the same. I guess I've always wanted to be a teacher. I remember when I was a child, I used to have lots of dolls, and I would give them name, last names, and numbers. Really? And play with them and everything, because I've always wanted to be a teacher and everything. But I've never I didn't know what I wanted to teach, just that I wanted to be a teacher. And then I started thinking of lots of different things, and I decided I was going to teach Portuguese, actually. But when I was 21, I left home to live by myself, and I needed a job. And the one thing I knew was English at that time, and I was studying letras already. I was studying, but I wasn't studying English. I was studying linguistics at the university, and I got my first job as an English teacher. And then everything happened from that moment on. I started teaching English when I was 21, 19, 20 years old. And when I saw I just couldn't leave that path anymore, I started taking other courses, studying more. And then here I am. Since always at 7, but here I am.
Okay, inspiring stories. I think we, as kids, naming our dolls and all, it was the same for me. A second question, that was a very general question to see, to know more about your background, but now I have my own role model in ELT, and I wanted to know if you, or if you had any women in ELT that inspired you to follow this path or to continue on it. Bruna?
Yeah, definitely. I used to have a teacher named Jaci Toledo. She taught me at CCAA, many levels, and I just loved. She was a lawyer, but then she quit law to become a teacher full-time, so she changed professions too, and she would prepare all the classes with lots of love. And we didn't have room for so much innovation or anything there, but she tried to bring extra things and everything. And so she was very important and inspiring. And later on, when I took the ISELT course, which was a big change for me because I used to work with audiolingual method, and then I took the ISELT, Albina Escobar was a great inspiration too. She's my mentor until now. Every step I take in my career, I always talk to her, and she's always there to support me.
Yeah, nice.
And there are many others that I could talk about, but those are the two ones that really made a huge difference.
Yeah, I think I couldn't name one person that I admire. That's really hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard.
That's true. Like I remember, I can't remember from the moment I was a student. But many years later, when I started actually working at 7 in a minute, I think that my best role model and the person I really admire and that helped me a lot and has helped me in many different situations, actually Deborah Schisler, because she's part of my life for many years now already. But I remember when I took my CELTA course and she was my tutor there, and she teaches you a lot. She's very honest when she has to give you feedback, both on language, teaching styles, and attitude. And I've always listened to her. Everything she told me, I always tried to change many different things. And even like when I took my master's course, when I was actually organizing everything to take my master's in England, she was the person I sent all of the information about the university I was applying and to help me choose. And about 1 year ago, I was kind of lost with some of the things I needed to study and to think of different ways and different paths. And again, she was the one who actually sat with me for over an hour talking and organizing my life with me. So I think I own her a lot, basically. Yeah.
I'm always afraid of. I'm always afraid of naming people and being unfair to other people, but I'm going to. But I think one thing that all my female role models had in common was the fact that they were so supportive and willing to share. The person that I'm going to mention is Chris Harumi. From Seven, and she used to be from Seven, and I think one of the most inspirational features of her personality was the fact that she was able to do so much, and it just baffled me. How can this woman help me academically? Because I was a novice teacher, I didn't know much. I needed a lot of help to prepare simple things in a lesson. So she managed to do that. She also ran a school. And at the same time, she needed to help the novice teachers find their bearings. And then she was running a school, welcoming students, managing the whole thing, and doing everything with a smile on her face. And that was very inspirational to me, to see how much she could do by herself, and never ceasing to be supportive to people who needed support like me. And I think if I hadn't crossed paths with her, I wouldn't be here now, because she didn't need to be so helpful, and she was. So she's definitely an inspirational role model, definitely.
Can I talk about Chris Harumi as well, just a sec? Because actually, she was one of my first boss at
Mine too.
Vila Mariana side in Vila Mariana. And actually, my first workshop only happened because of her, because she used to go around me all the time asking me when I was going to deliver a workshop, and that was my turn to do it, that she was really expecting me to do something like that. And then she opened a space for me. She even corrected my proposal and everything to help me out. And I started back in 2011 presenting, and actually it was because of her, that for sure as well. Yeah, definitely.
Now, I also have my role models, and I can say that actually the three of you are really like my role models right now. I really look up to you guys, and I'm trying to build a career like looking up to you. So I have a lot to I like when I'm being my role models.
Thank you.
I can't hear anymore. Yeah, I can't hear you anymore.
Oh my God. Everybody there? Everybody there?
Okay, it's okay now. It's fine. It's fine. Thank you so much for your kind words.
Okay, let's go to next question. So now we start to get a little more in depth of some issues we have as being women in the industry. So what do you think, which are the biggest challenges for young women in ELT? People like me starting the
well, one of the things that I noticed in the career of ELT is the fact that we have so many women teaching, so many women in the classroom, but I think it is still very difficult. I think not only in ELT, but in other fields. In ELT, of course, we know more about, because we are in the field, women rising to what they call positions of power, such as DOS, Director of Studies, or top managerial positions. It is still difficult for women, if you consider the number of teachers who are women, to rise to different levels in the career. I think this is true for many other fields, and it is still true in ELT. I think it has been changing. We've seen some changes, but we're still a little far from the ideal, from the ideal equity in top managerial positions of leadership, and what people call power positions. I don't like the word power position, but anyways. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I see many reasons why that happens.
Yeah,
There are lots of
Cintia, do you have
reasons.
anything to add?
Yeah, we were adding already one on the top of the other, and that's what we're going to happen here. But as I was saying, like, for example, it's really, as she mentioned the fact that there aren't too many women in the power positions in ELT, but it also depends on the field, because if you come to schools, language schools, you'll see that most of the director of studies, or even the honors, they tend to be women most of the time. But when it goes to publishers, everything changes again, because then we get to those CEO format that is mostly mainly they're mainly fulfilled by white men, more specifically. But I guess like there are a few reasons for that, and I could mention two of them, but I'm sure that Bruna will agree with me because she has already talked about that as well. That one of them is the fact that we don't feel prepared to do things because we were raised to be more, we were not raised to take risks in a certain way. So most women, like I even had a case today of someone telling me that she didn't feel she was able to start teaching when this is something you learn. The more you do, the more you know. And if you have someone helping you out, you learn more to get prepared for that. That's something the men don't actually feel like most of the time. They simply go. And the second thing, when it comes to many other things, is still connected to having kids. Because we still live in a society in which women are responsible for the kids. They are responsible for taking kids to school, taking kids to the doctors and everything else. So they cannot have a full-time position sometimes, or they cannot give all their availability some other people would give, just because they need to take care of their kids as well. And that's what society expects from them. In the same way that I'm talking about Brazil, of course, because that's the word, that's where we are. And we don't see men being able, I'm not just talking about the fact that some of them don't even think about doing that, but I don't see them being allowed to leave work earlier to pick up a child at school, or to have a more flexible working time because of kids, as much as women have to. So that also gets on the way, in my point of view.
And whenever they do this, if they do get early to get a kid,
I totally agree.
And if they do get out earlier in order to take a child to the doctor, for example, they are seen as heroes. And women on the other side, they are like, oh, again, I don't believe it. I don't believe she's doing it again. So I cannot trust her. I think managers, directors, and etc., they think they cannot trust women who have kids because they have to be absent more often. So I think it's more difficult. And there are other things too, because when you are in a leadership position, for example, if you're a woman, you are called bossy. Haven't you been called bossy? I've been many times. And then always very bossy. And men, when they have the same position as I do, they are just assertive. They are very, they're not aggressive, and they can communicate very well, and they are assertive. They're not bossy, but I am bossy. So we need to manage this all the time, and we need to be very strong in order to face these difficulties. And there are many others that we could talk about, but mentioning just a few, I think those are things that will hold us back, Things have been changing, but it's still, they are very different. All over the world, I was researching this because of the Voices talk, only 12% of CEOs of company are women, 12% all over the world. So it's too little. We are very far away from having the same things.
You know what the funny thing is when you talk about this being bossy thing that she just said, is that unfortunately we get lots of women saying the same thing, because this is something we learn, because we know that's not true, but we learn it. Since the day you're born, you learn that women are more emotional, that women are difficult to deal with, It's hard to work with women because women are hard to handle and blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, we keep on reproducing the same discourse over and over again. And that goes not only from men, but from women as well. So that has to change from all of the directions, you know? And so this is complicated.
And I think from my perspective, as there are so many women inside the classroom, I think this is actually a great opportunity for us to make the difference, because we have the power to influence so many people and so many students. And I think these small details, for example, the use of the word bossy when you're referring to a woman, let's say that this is a situation that comes up in your classroom. As women, I think where we have it is our duty to address the issue language-wise. So what is the implication of using this word when you're talking about any person, and specifically when you're talking about a woman? And also, our teachers, any teacher can do that, but I think as women, we have the power to start changing little by little the mindset of students who might fall into this trap of the stereotypical idea that a woman is bossy and the man is assertive. So I think this is one advantage, and we need to unite and try to at least make this difference. Since we are so many teaching, I think there's something that we can do within this scope and try to influence students and change other women's lives, not only the women in ELT, but the other women that our students deal with every day.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with Bruna and Cintia.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
So now, thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear us?
I can't hear her.
Hello. I can't hear. Yeah. Taísa, would you mind trying again? Okay. So while Taísa tries again, that it's easier for women to strive in teaching than for men. What do you think of this? I would say a misconception.
Can you say that again, please?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
I didn't hear either.
It's actually nice to see that the worst internet here is the one in England, right?
I think I got the gist. They will try.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about the joke.
Priscilla, can you repeat the question, please?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. My connection is not the best. I'm sorry.
And she's frozen again.
Striving teaching, that teaching is considered a women's profession. What do you think of that? Cintia, you can.
Off you go, Andrea.
I think there's this misconception that women are naturally more caring because it's in their nature to take care of children, and they are built to be caring and provide. Today, the Nova Escola magazine published an article about the imbalance of women and men in teaching positions. And it's very interesting. I can share the link here in the chat later. But you're correct. There are definitely more women teaching that fall naturally in the profession than men. I think, especially when we talk about basic education and children, young learners, if we talk about ELT, there's also the prejudice against men, because there is also the misconception that men shouldn't be teaching children and women are better at this job than men, which is really unfounded, because there is no explanation why women would be better at this job than men. But I agree that there is a misconception. I think that, as Cintia said, some women even they reinforce the misconception by saying that women are more capable of teaching children. I'm gonna share the link with the numbers, but it's very interesting to see how women naturally choose a career in teaching and not so many men do. The numbers, they don't lie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I think I'm because I remember the article. I thought it was very interesting to share, but I don't know if I answered the question. Sorry.
Yeah, I totally I see that the thing again, that's again misconception by the society, but there is one thing that now, that's what I always say, you know, sexism is bad, and it's not only bad for us but also for the men. And the thing is, men are believed to be, how can I put this, when it comes to men and sexual desire, it feels like men can never control themselves. That's the way that they are perceived by the society, which is not true, because we're human beings, we have the same type of body and everything. And then there are lots of schools that do not get men to work with them.
Teach young learners.
Because they're afraid they might have, some parents might sue them because the teacher touched the kid. Or many men are also afraid of doing the same for the same reason, because they're afraid of saying anything to a child and the child goes home and then next day they are there as a pedophile, you know? So it's a double-edged sword. But it is actually true, and this is the justification I've heard from many schools that were not employing men to work with children. Plus, of course, all of the society that Andrea has already mentioned, the being caring thing and so on, that women are, but I also believe that it has to do with flexibility and the time, because then we can go home, while men would go for a full-time job with something more important, earning more money to support the family. That's society, unfortunately.
Yes.
Bruna?
I think they said it all. It's a misconception that we have what I just don't understand is that we are better teachers, but then we're not good writers, maybe. Yeah? We don't write course books, or we don't write methodology books, although we are better teachers. So this is kind of strange. It's just a misconception. And men cannot teach young children because of the reasons Cintia said. That it's too sad, because these problems could happen with men and women, and okay. But then I think they said it all. It's just a misconception, but the numbers don't lie. Women teachers, they outnumber men teachers, and it's not only in Brazil. It's like all over the world, especially when it comes to children.
Mm-hmm.
But not university. Most professors are men.
Mm-hmm.
High school, or when you were talking about children's education, everything, most are women. But when it comes to higher education, most are men. So there is something really wrong about it, I feel.
Yeah. Taísa, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me now?
Hey, yes.
Yes. So sorry, ladies. Thank you. All right. So I think I missed the question. So I got in the middle of Cincia's response.
Hear you. Now we no.
Which was like, yay.
Now we can hear you. Now we can't.
Oh God. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I can make a question. I can make the question again to you. So,
Okay.
what?
She's kind of freezing all the time.
Yeah. I couldn't hear the question.
Can we ask her the question? Because it was kind of freezing a little bit again. She was asking us, that there's this misconception that women are better at teaching than men, and there are more women teaching than men. It is something like that, right? I'm kind of terrible at telling it.
Yes.
Yeah, why is it that people think women make better teachers than men?
Okay. All right. So I might repeat what you guys all said. I'm sorry. So I just got in the middle of Cintia's response, and I agree with her, and I agree with Bruna, right? As well. So sorry. What I could add to what you said is the idea that women have to, they resort to feelings and they're nurturers. So they're natural givers. And that would be the best fit for a teacher. So it's using the heart all the way. And then that's not something we picture of a man teacher. So that to me would be, again, the word that you use, misconception, just describes it all.
And if I may I add something?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I think that this apart from being something that has absolutely no foundation, it also makes our job less professional, I would say, because for you to be able to teach anybody, a young learner or teenager or an adult, you need to have a set of skills that go beyond what people think might be a natural part of a person. So if I am a woman, I'm caring, so that means that I can teach children, and that's not accurate at all. For me to teach children, I need to understand what a child is, what a young learner is. I have to develop techniques and skills and a repertoire to teach these children. It is not something that comes naturally to anybody. It comes with training and studying. So I think the misconception is not only bad for women, but it's also bad for the profession itself, for the teaching professional, which is already not taken seriously here. So it just makes the stereotype of the teacherzinha, even worse, which is something horrible, I think. I'm sorry.
I second that 100%.
Yeah, me too.
Taísa,
yes. Oh,
because everybody introduced themselves, so we want to know more about you too. So tell us about your professional context, about you, anything you want to tell about you to us.
Sure. Okay. Better late than never. Okay, let's do it. So I've been teaching since I got in college, which is normally what most people do. I come from UFRJ, did my Letras Bachelor degree in there. Then I've worked in language institutions and private schools in Rio. I'm originally from Rio, but I just recently moved to São Paulo. There's a lot of getting used to São Paulo still, including the traffic. I've had the opportunity to do my master's abroad, and I returned, last year actually. I went to Teachers College and I studied adult learning and leadership, and that was one of the best experiences I've had in my career. And now I'm in São Paulo, recently hired to work at Avenues, the World School, taking care of Portuguese support at this point. So that's basically it.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's go for the next question then. This is more general for, I think, for all of us to. What can employers do in order to guarantee equal opportunities to both male and female teachers?
That's a hard question, right?
Not consider the gender, but the capacities that the person has. I think it's a plus, because sometimes we women, we are sexist too. This is the truth. So we have to all the time to think about that, to consider, to think about our actions, because sometimes we do this because we were raised this way, not because we want to be this way. So we needed to talk about it. We needed to think about it and be sure we are guaranteeing good opportunities to everyone. Not good need to think, oh, this person has a child, so I don't want this person to be a coordinator at my school. We need to be aware of the things we do, because this is the way, at least I have been raised this way. So I think it's very difficult to change. So we needed to think and reflect all the time. And when we do something, we need really to think about it, because I think we do those things without the intention sometimes. So we need to guarantee that people have equal opportunities, even if we don't need to think about gender issues. We need to think about really what the person is there to do. But sometimes I think it's hard. And I've been trying.
I totally agree with Bruna.
And there's like one thing, every time I think of leadership nowadays, I've been studying a lot about this diverse leadership, which actually is becoming my topic now. And why has that become a topic? Because I think that the only way to get there is from changing. We need the leadership to start changing as well. Like, especially when it comes to publishers and these other things, like she said, like, no, it's really rare to get women publishing books and things like that. They're mostly men, and there are lots of problems we have. That's one thing, is the leadership itself. Women, when they get to the leadership, which is happening now, actually each day more, they cannot act just like the men used to.
Exactly.
We have to change this type of leadership in a way that we're actually giving opportunity to lots of different types of people. And it doesn't matter, like, so then if you have a leadership filled with women, men, LGBT people, Afro-descendant people, we will be able to make sure there'll be equal opportunities for everyone. But I think what's most important is for us to know what our beliefs are and never change it, you know, just because somebody else, because we're afraid of someone, you know. We have to stick to our beliefs. The moment we do that, we will be able to start developing other people to get there and to do the things they have to.
And we have to pay attention to ourselves all the time. We must walk our talk, because sometimes we're talking about this and then tomorrow at my school I do something different. And so we have really to pay attention. We must change as leaders. You are a coordinator, Cintia is a coordinator, I'm a school owner. Taísa is working at a very nice school right now. We must start this change.
Yeah.
So we must really walk our talk, I think.
So this means, like, we need to give space for women who need more flexible time, because they have to take their kids at school. And the moment they do that, we're not going to judge them or tell them off afterwards or give them less groups because of it. We will be able to find solutions to make sure everybody will have the same opportunity. Otherwise, that's not going to change.
I agree. I'd add to what Bruna and Cintia are saying, that we need to be very aware of our own gender bias, because we were born in a society which is very gender biased, and sometimes inadvertently we are not walking our talk, as Bruna said. So I think awareness is the first step. Taking action, like Cintia said, it has to be the second step, but always being aware that we can act with this background of gender bias all the time. So the more we know and the more we talk about it, the more we reflect and are able to change our own actions. So I totally agree with you, girls.
Yeah, and this thing happens every day, you know. So we have to disconstruct those bias every day. Even like with our friends, sometimes we say something silly, somebody says just don't do it, and then we learn something new, and then we need to change. So I think the change started with the women, but it has to go into the men as well. They need to hear. But the difference is when you tell a woman she's being sexist in a way, she understands it and she tries to change that sometimes. But when you say the same to men, they start kind of become defensive and saying that they actually are very good with women, and that's not what we're saying. You know, we're just trying to destroy a little bit of this gender bias thing that she was saying. So it's complicated. It's not easy.
It's that not all men that makes men just go crazy. Not all men.
Yeah, exactly. I hate that sentence.
It's true.
For sure.
I think she's frozen again.
Yeah, I think there's some sort of delay.
Yeah.
No, she's
But we can keep on
frozen.
talking. We can keep on
Yeah,
talking.
let's keep on talking about it. So I'm good. So let's ask questions.
I agree
because, so
with
what
everything
have you
that
been
you
doing
said.
to change this?
If I say, Priscilla?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. This is Shago. Just coming here because I really would like you girls to develop that concept of, well, not all men. So could you talk a little bit more about that? Because that's so juicy, right?
Okay, would
Just
you like to
thinking
go then?
about, yeah, sure. Just thinking about how men are so quick to generalize women as, they can't drive and this and that. There's so many ways that you can make fun of women. But at the same time, the minute we'd say because men are like this, they just stop everything they're doing. They just rush and say, not all men. So the idea of vulnerability and failure and flaw is something so far-fetched from their reality that it's like an insult to even talk about any man. It doesn't have to be you. It doesn't have to be a relative. So it's like you're attacking them. And it's just, they're so quick to judge and so quick to say that they're not the ones who are causing all the damages in society. So
And the truth is, we know
all I have to say
sometimes that it's not all men. Of course, it's not all men, but it happens. But the thing is, when we say like that, the last time I had this type of argument online, we were talking about harassment probably, or this kind of, and they say, oh, but it's not all men. But the thing is, what we're saying is that it happens every day to every single woman. So if every single woman around you has got something to say when they say when we use the Me Too hashtag, each one of us got something to say about that. Each one of us has suffered some. Like you can ask any woman. So if it happens every day, all the time, that's because it doesn't matter whether it's all men or not. It's just the majority of them, and they've been doing that a lot. And that if it's those who say not all men should keep on then start changing it by telling these men not to do so, then instead of laughing at the joke then.
Yeah, I believe that the main issue with the not all men attitude is mainly that it reinforces the idea of us versus them. And it shouldn't be like that, because if you analyze it, it's not all men. It sounds defensive. It may sound a little patronizing to the woman who is sharing something. So I think it's mainly if you analyze the sentence, right? Discourse analysis, but not all men. And then it already shows that there is a division in what should be something that everybody should be fighting for together, men and women, not only women. But I think that this is basically the problem with the not all men attitude. It just does not add anything to the discussion, anything that is relevant or core to the discussion of whether there is equality between men and women in ELT or any other field.
Or even amongst them.
Sorry?
Or even amongst them. The thing with not all men is just like, okay, you don't do that. I'm happy for you. But you're an exception and you should understand it.
Not exactly an exception. It doesn't exist. So you should observe the other men who are not similar to you, maybe. Instead of saying not all men, you start observing men who are around you. It's better because then you get to learn something, and you can help women. Not like, because when you say it's not all men, you are saying, okay, I'm not this way, so I don't want to talk about it. It's only me. So instead of it's not all men, you could observe the other people and yourself. Yeah, it's not all men for this specific situation, but for others, maybe there is something to think about.
Can I give an example?
Sure.
There is a website called The Fair List, which basically lists the number of plenary speakers and counts the number of men and number of women. There is information about Brazil, but it's information from all around the world. It's a website created by Tessa Woodward. And when the FAIR list was launched, there was a lot of men plenary speakers saying, oh, but in that conference, there was one woman, or there were 3 women and only 2 men, with this defensive attitude, because somebody decided to put on a website to count, like literally, it's called the FAIR list, conference by conference, the number of men and the number of women who were taking part as plenary or keynote speakers. And there was a lot of buzz, because yes, there were some conferences in which women were the majority, but if you look at the bigger picture, it's mostly men who speak in
women are the majority, is the exception.
The majority are in the exception of the conferences where there are more women, and this is exactly what it sparked. Some men coming forward and saying, oh, but there is this one conference where there were more women. So I think this is like a situation that it's not all men, or but there is this situation where women are in the spotlight that we need to raise awareness to, because it's not all men, or there are sometimes more women. And actually, there is one CEO, but it's not the point, right? It's not the objective of equality. That's not what we want. We don't want women to call the attention because they are the CEO. We want this to be natural, to be as normal as men.
Actually, Nicola Prentice, which was one of the women that actually worked with this FAIR list, she was very much attacked. She was attacked by lots of huge names.
Exactly.
Just because she was mentioning that. And she created this group on Facebook called Women in ELT.
It's an amazing
men got so upset because they weren't allowed to be there. They created another group called Men in ELT, in which they just copied the whole description there and changed it women for men. That was just ridiculous. We cannot have our space that they feel threatened, as if we were going to destroy their work, when we're just trying to make it equal. It is fantastic.
It doesn't add to the debate.
Yes, it is pathetic, and this is coming from me. So, a last question before we open for questions from the audience. From your perspective, how can we, institutions, association, teachers, avoid gender bias in the classroom? How can we educate those newer generations that are coming?
I think, first of all, not being afraid, because there is a lot of pressure sometimes. You are expected to behave because you're dealing with students, and in the classroom, although the teacher is the authoritative figure, we are in an institution or in a language center, and we need to treat students. That's at least what I think teachers think. We need to treat our students with respect and respect the differences in opinion and the diversity that we find in the classroom. However, I think there are situations in which it is appropriate to address the forbidden topics, such as the use of gender-neutral language, or the use of words that might be demeaning to a woman. And this is part of teaching the language, but also educating, I think, future generations. We cannot shy away from the challenge, because it is challenging, but we cannot shy away. I think this is the first thing that we need to bear in mind, not being afraid of tackling the issues that make us feel uncomfortable sometimes.
I think there are many adaptations that we can try to have in class. For example, some exercise, we can propose a discussion after an exercise, and we can kind of talk about it, because we are educators. We have to talk about those things, so we can adapt what we have been planning and bring up some discussions and showing, because I don't think everybody does what they do because they are bad or because they are sexy, but many people, they have been raised this way. So I think it's part of our job to try to educate them, really. Try to show other perspectives, bring those topics to class. when I had the presentation at SIG Symposium last year about this, I talked to my private students about this presentation. I shared some of the numbers I found. For example, only 12% say, oh, guess what those numbers mean. I brought a text about it. So you can include in your lesson something, and some of my students were really shocked, as most of my audience, because of the numbers I shared. So I share this with students. I teach many one-to-one students, so might be easier than groups, but I think we can show them some things that are real, and we can work with facts, because when we show data, when we show numbers, I think it's easier for people not to argue against, because it's a number. It's not that I am saying that it's unfair, but that's a number. What do you think about this number? I think using this critical thinking thing to tackle those situations, I think we can teach students something that will be used not only in class but in their lives. That's the way I try to handle this.
Yeah, I would add like just two more subtle things would be, so one of them is actually making sure when you're taking materials into classroom, what pictures are there, that you know the pictures that are there, that you can change pictures, because as I said before, hasn't changed a lot when it comes to publishers. So they keep on designing the same type of material. So we can start changing it inside of our own classrooms when you're aware of it. You can start changing some of the pictures. So women outside, women as lawyers, women doing other type of jobs rather than going shopping or taking care of the house. Plus, the other more subtle thing that goes closer to leadership, I guess, as we as leaders, we need to have our teachers back in a certain way, that to make sure that, because what Andreia said is absolutely, I agree 100% that we cannot be afraid. But the first thing for a teacher not to be afraid is knowing that they have someone's going to have their back somehow. So if they're going to show like a student that he's being sexist, if the student complains about it, that he's not going to be fired because of it.
Exactly.
You know? Because we are trying to change so that the coordinator or the director, whoever is going to talk to that student, will actually give them, listen to them, but not tell the teacher off or tell the teacher apart. So, because that's something that happens to us a lot. Like I've got students who left my classroom just because I was a lesbian, and the coordinator was okay with that, instead of actually trying to change the situation a little bit. But that's because mostly we are afraid, and we have to stop being afraid. So Andreia started in the best way possible.
Yeah, and adding to you, Cintia, the two major points of what I was going to say were based on support. Not only the support of, having the support of the institution is number one, because then if you have a teacher that has her heart and his heart in the right place, but fears that, her job or his job is on the line, then there's very little you can do. And the second point would be material, right? Because not only do we have to, be faced with women in positions that don't really depict reality, usually there's only one type of woman that you see in materials. So, I struggle finding references. So I don't even know if students know how to talk about my hair or the color of my skin, because it's just not a topic. So just being mindful that, not only the positions of leadership, but all the shapes and forms that women come in might be important to think when you're preparing that material, and knowing that you'll have someone to back you up because you're changing the material from that school. And, so basically what you said, but I just wanted to add to the fact that, from my personal experience, it's always been very difficult to see myself in not only in environments, but in the content and in the materials that I'm provided with. So it's constant challenge. It's a constant challenge to adapt at basically everything.
Yeah, representativeness is everything, right?
Yes.
Good evening, ladies.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, this is Barbara. I'm here to bring you some reflections from YouTube. Okay?
Okay.
The first one comes from Vinicius Nobre, and he's asking, I would really like to know how these women feel about celebrations like Women's Day. Many people would say it encourages segregation and does not fully embrace equality within diversity. What do you think about that?
No. Well, I don't celebrate it, actually, because it's not a day to celebrate. If you know the story and everything, that's a day that I would love to be on the streets and marching with all of the women that are marching in São Paulo, but I just couldn't because of work and because I was going to be here as well. I think
Thank you for that.
And actually that's the day to march, that's the day to fight, actually. And so I hate when they come with flowers, when they come and saying parabéns, like congratulations, just like, no, you're missing the point. So yeah, that's my point, but I'm kind of a little bit not the best person actually to answer this question, perhaps.
I think we should use this day to talk about the way we are doing here today. We should bring up some discussion. At Caltabiano, for example, once we had a quiz about some powerful women in the world, and the winner won something. That's okay. Together with the quiz, when you answered the quiz, you got a chocolate. But anyways, there was a quiz talking about women and discussing. I think there shouldn't be something like shallow. Should be something we could use this day to talk about the things that we're talking today.
Exactly. I believe there will be a day when we won't need this anymore, and I hope this day comes. But I think it is important to raise awareness. I think, like Cintia said, if it's just congratulations, Happy Women's Day. I know people don't mean to offend, but it's not really the point. I think the point is to raise awareness and make people reflect upon issues like this. And I am happy that we are here today fostering reflection on this topic.
Yeah, me too.
All right, we have another point Vinny made about not having men in today's webinar. He said, isn't it interesting that to raise awareness, we often end up reinforcing the division of groups? And I would like you to kindly comment on that.
I don't understand the question properly.
The question is... go ahead, sorry.
He's talking about the fact that we are having a webinar to celebrate Women's Day and to talk about women's issues, and we don't have any men here. So he pointed out, he's in the panel, in the webinar today, in the chat today. And then his quote is, isn't it interesting that to raise awareness, we often end up reinforcing the division of groups?
Oh, God.
I wouldn't mind having men here today because I think it makes the discussion interesting. I think it is a choice. Yeah, there are different models for discussion. I think Brelt chose today to invite only women, but I wouldn't mind having men. What I would mind, though, would be only men talking about this issue, as we've seen, for example, panels or forums about native speakerism, where only native speakers were participating. Then I think this is an issue because there's no diversity represented in a panel like that. But today, I personally, I think it would add to the
I disagree, to be honest. I disagree, because that's, again, when you're talking about place of speech, and that's representativeness, There's one day in the year in which we are there and that we actually can show our voices there. And it is important to hear what we are saying because we're talking about women issues in general, And that's my point. That's my problem sometimes, because I think that it is okay to, like, one of the guys, there was a guy who asked me if he could participate. I said, yes, of course you can. Of course you can ask questions. Of course you can do something. But what is the point? Why is that such a big deal to have only women talking about us? We can only talk about equality and not having any sort of divisions when there's no more privilege there. Once men is in a position of privilege, which they are, please let us do something now. Let us start changing things. When we get to equality, when they are fighting for us in every single part of their lives. I mean, so when they see a friend showing a photo of a woman, they say, oh, don't do that. When they see a friend say, oh, I'm going to have sex with that lady tonight just because I want to, just stop them from doing that. The moment they start doing it, the moment they start thinking of equality in every single area, they can be part of this panel as well. Otherwise, now it is our chance to talk. That's a minority talking, you know, and it's important to have our own space sometimes. We don't do that very often. It's just one day of the year, you know. And of course, you know that there is nowadays the Men's Day as well, right? Because they need a Men's Day as well to feel comfortable with that. Come on, you're talking about privilege. And let's see what your privilege is, you know, and put yourself there, look at the other, and noticing who you are in the first place. We have a voice, and we don't usually have any sort of voice. So let us talk today, you know? What is the problem? We're not, I'm sorry, I just got
That's okay. Like, no. I 100% agree. I don't see this panel as creating any division. This is a panel where people can learn from our personal experiences. Our personal experiences do not reflect all women's experiences. So we're not, at least I am not speaking on behalf of all ELT women. I would not be presumptuous that way. So it's a moment for a couple of professionals to share their thoughts and ideas. And it's a moment to learn. So if this generates maybe this feeling of being uncomfortable and being, you know, we're dividing, well, you have to just check what you mean by division and just take a seat, because you might be missing out on some learning experiences here. So
that's it. I would also like to point out the fact that all the men moderators are here with us, watching all the panels and commenting as we talk, and they wanted us women to be carrying it out. So I would like to say thank you for them for giving us this space. Everyone, I would really like to thank you for having participated here today. We understand that it's still an issue to bring up women's topics and to put us on the spotlight. So thank you very much for being here, for giving your opinions, for sharing a little bit of your life and your experience in ELT. It was very enriching indeed.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
I'd like to remind you all watching that we're going to have a second chat right now, starting in 3 minutes, with Valéria França, Lavon John, Luciana Oliveira, and Deborah Schisler. And
absolutely unmissable.
I'm sure it's going to be something really worth watching. So I hope to see you there soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.